Greetings, Culturians, and welcome back to the channel. Let's talk about the box office. Why? Because, well, it's so woeful during the month of January and February, and it started out equally as woeful even halfway through this month in February with the catastrophic failure of Wuthering Heights. Now, it's not being couched this way in the trade media, and everybody in Hollywood is ignoring the fact that this thing had a budget over $80 million. And that while it did earn back that global number, it's not going to perform much beyond what it did this last weekend. Valentine's Day is exactly the time that they needed to release this, but because this has become so divisive, it's not going to do as well as it should have, would have, or could have. And again, ladies are a sucker for these films, and we'll see just exactly how much it sucked. Here we go. Now, before we get started, just a real quick reminder, I'm trying to get to 50K, so please double check down there in the area right below. If it's red and it says subscribe, click it and turn it gray, and then hit the little button next to it, the bell icon, and turn on all notifications. And then we should be well on our way to growing the channel even more effectively. And you've been doing a great job of that lately, so thank you, including the female audience here, which is now up to a full 20%, which is rare in this space. So ladies, thank you. I appreciate you. Not only that, if you wouldn't mind hitting that thumbs up button right now, you'll help the algorithm even more. And then give me some comments and thoughts about why maybe this movie underperformed. As you can see here from our friends over at World of Real, Jordan's written a story saying Wuthering Heights underperforms, 38 million 4-day weekend expected, bringing the global total up to about 70 million, which we'll get to in just a moment. But this is not the only place talking about underperformance. And I think that's kind of important too, which we'll get to another story in just a moment, but let me get you caught up on the details. Here we go. Things are not looking good for Emerald Fennell's Wuthering Heights, at least when compared to the $50 million opening that seemed practically locked just a few days ago. Fennell's divisive romance tallied $8 million on Friday. Not good. Warner Brothers is praying that an onslaught of ticket buyers will show up today, Valentine's Day, which obviously was yesterday. Otherwise, the film is currently looking at 38 to 40 million for the 4-day weekend, and that's what the trades seem to have been predicting since Saturday. Now, it's a pretty good number for an R-rated Bronte adaptation. In fact, it's performing better than it had any right to. But those amazing pre-sales that led to expect 50 million have not translated into stellar walk-ups. Earlier, when they originally reported this story on Sunday, Wuthering Heights reviews might have slightly tamped down its box office prospects. As you know, critics are very mixed on this movie, which has a 52 on Metacritic and a 65 on Rotten Tomatoes. Early word is that Wuthering Heights, which is late as yesterday, was being projected by the trades to have a $50 to $55 million opening. Won't be hitting that mark, and on Thursday it only earned $3 million in previews and is now eyeing $40 million over the holiday weekend, which stretches through Monday. Again, I have to ask a question. How did Valentine's weekend become a thing? Or is it just because of when Valentine's Day fell that people were expecting more, even out of a day like, let's say, the Monday, the 16th, which is actually President's Day? Wouldn't this be a President's Day weekend, not a Valentine's Day weekend? And while Valentine's is obviously important to this particular release time, you would think that all the hard, dyed-in-the-wool romantics would, of course, have gone 2 days ago. But they didn't, at least not by any reasonable measure. So, to put things in perspective, most recently, Send Help had $3 million on Thursday and then went on to have a $21 million weekend, albeit I expect Wuthering Heights to have higher due to the inevitable Valentine's Day bump on Saturday, which it did. Furthermore, a Puck report has Warner Brothers spending a whopping $85 million on marketing. Holy cow. $165 million on this mess, and it's only got 70 million global or 72 million global, depending upon where you were paying attention this weekend. That's not exactly what they were hoping for. And if it ekes out to 80 global, still, how much more legs will a film like this have? This is kind of one of those everybody sees it the first weekend kind of thing, and then it falls off like an MCU film. But hey, that's just my opinion. Let's take a look at Collider's opinion, because guess what? They have similar thoughts. Wuthering Heights blows past Margot Robbie's infamous 80 million box office dud in record time. The weeks of buzz and divisive reviews seem to have worked in favor of director Emerald Fennell's third feature film, Wuthering Heights. The period romance is estimated to deliver a massive box office haul in its worldwide debut, recouping its $80 million budget in 4 days flat. And this is why you can never trust Collider, because, well, first of all, the original headline for this was misleading, and second, they didn't earn back their money. They aren't factoring in, and this they do traditionally. It's not just them. The trade media also cheats here too. But if you think about it, at best, the studios only recoup about half of the total box office proceeds. It doesn't matter if it's worldwide or domestic. You just always calculate about 50%. And in some cases, it's less than that. If you calculate more reasonably to about 45% of total box office receipts, you're probably closer to on the money. Then they don't even look at the fact that this had an $85 million theatrical promotion campaign that came along with it, which, again, you need to account for in the math. Now, is the film something that's going to appeal to a specific audience? Yes, Bronte adaptations always do. And is this the best version of this story? No, probably not. There are many other adaptations of this piece of literature, and they have been done far better from what the critics say. So I never take into account what Collider says specifically, just read between the lines. That way, it's safer. On the other hand, the film has been praised for its technical achievements and stylized tone. Overall, it's turning out to be as divisive as those early marketing assets suggested. Wuthering Heights nearly went to Netflix. The streamer reportedly bid $150 million for the rights to distribute the film. And I got to tell you, that likely would have been the better path forward. It would have been far more profitable. If you only spent $80 million, you couldn't have expected to double that rather easily, which is the gamble that I guess Warner Brothers tried to take here. Not a bet I would take. I don't know about you. Let me know in the comments section below if you think that was a good choice. But Robbie, who also serves as producer on the project, chose to take a lower bid from Warner Brothers instead, and the studio put its money where its mouth was last year, delivering a major streak of hit films with a director-driven approach. Robbie has had a long partnership with Warner Brothers, having starred in the films The Squad, The Legend of Tarzan, Birds of Prey, and more recently Barbie, which out of all of those, the only one that was success was Barbie. But the satirical comedy scored an Oscar nomination in addition to grossing $1.4 billion, and as I said, was the only thing that was successful during that part of her career. Wuthering Heights has outgrossed 3 of Margot Robbie's recent underperformers, which it totally needed to do, breaking that $80 million line as was suggested in the headline. Now, Wuthering Heights puts her on the right track with its opening weekend haul. The movie grossed an estimated $40 million domestically and another $42 million from overseas, although those numbers are arguably going to be adjusted substantially. And that cumulative $82 million worldwide haul is really only $41 million to the studio, leaving it well beyond reaching the potential of breaking even. Because again, as they pointed out, she took a lower bid from Warner Brothers to get Warner Brothers distribution, which means that while she may have still made money, the film likely won't. At least not for my estimation anyway. Robbie's recent projects like Amsterdam, which was $29 million, Babylon, which was $64 million, and A Big, Bold, Beautiful Journey, $20 million. Babylon was directed by Damien Chazelle and had produced on a reported budget of $80 million, also starring Brad Pitt. That's a colossal loss of money. It's on its way to acquiring a cult status. However, Wuthering Heights is currently sitting at a 63% score of the aggregator website Rotten Tomatoes, where the critics' consensus, liberally adapting from Emily Bronte's classic story with a heavy dose of carnality and chic stylization. In other words, read radically different than what literature connoisseurs were expecting, and true fans of the work are going to be disappointed, and were. And that includes Alan Ng from Film Threat, who absolutely hates this movie. If you listen to any of the reviews from any of the people who were willing to go see it, which does not include me, don't expect me to review this at all, I was expecting something that was a little more, revealing and a little more carnal than the original literature was, but also something that would have been more successful and more broadly appealing, adapting the literature in a way that would have been more respectful to Emily's work, which this one just clearly wasn't. But hey, those are my thoughts and my analysis. What's yours? Did you go and see this movie this last weekend? And do you plan on seeing it if you haven't? Do you like adaptations like this of classic literature, but turned on their end for the purposes of the modern audience, or to be a little bit more risque? Is the idea of adaptations a good plan going forward in Hollywood, or are they not mature enough to handle the material in a responsible way at this point in time? And finally, where do you think this ends up? Do you think I'm wrong? Do you think it's profitable? Do you think it makes a lot of money, especially accounting for the fact that they spent $85 million on production marketing alone, not just the $80 million in production price it cost? Not to mention the fact that Warner Brothers probably wrote a check for about $40 million rather than having it go directly to streaming, which would have made it more money, in my opinion. I'd take profit if I had to. How about you? Let me know your thoughts on any of those questions or anything else about this movie in the comments section down below. And as always, be sure to take care of yourself, take care of others, and until next time, see ya. For real. Just not at this movie.